day, lords and ladies, and welcome to a special episode of Wild Hearts. So today we are going to take a quick moment to address one of the complaints that I see most often. On the forums, I have heard it from other YouTubers, and basically, the premise of the complaint is that the food system is too convoluted. And in fact, it is pretty convoluted insofar as I just found out last week that I have been doing food prep incorrectly. So, we're going to talk about a couple of things and a couple of my recipes and some things that you need to know. So, first up is a common misnomer, or common misunderstanding, that the very best food comes from drying, then pickling, then smoking. This is actually not true at all. Drying and pickling are an either-or situation. Either you are drying the food because you like the properties of it as they stand, or you are pickling it with a seasoning in favor of different properties altogether. So, for the sake of argument, I have some of those dried things right here. So, things that you might consider drying are like the gem rice that we've talked about a lot in this series. We're going to go ahead and hang this up, and you can see that drying it takes it from 15 health boost and 8% recovery to 30 health and 16% recovery. Now, in order to hang a rack to dry of, at least for definitely grains and vegetables, you need 8 to hang to get 3. One of the other things that you might consider drying are the special vegetable native to Fuyusaki Fort, the bulbous turnip. So you can see this inherently comes with 18 health and 6% defense. Drying it takes it to 35 health and 9% defense for the cost of 90 food. I don't eat these very often because you basically can only eat this. So we're going to go ahead and hang those. Now, conversely, things that you might consider pickling. We're going to, for instance, pickle some grain. With miso, which you can see is going to give it a 21 health boost and 4% recovery. This is one of my better recipes. You might consider doing fish frying, crab fish. Thought I had everything in my inventory. You might consider pickling, say, fish. I use either fish paste for 11 health and 12% fatigue recovery, or one of my better filler foods, which is fish and vinegar, which you can see only costs 15 food for 5 health and 3% fatigue alleviation. And the last thing that I usually pickle are vegetables, just generic vegetables, with fish paste, which you can see gives 11 health, 3% defense boost, and 5% fatigue alleviation. Now, how did I get those seasonings? Next thing we're going to talk about. So, in order to do fish paste, obviously, as the name suggests, you need fish. Now, fish paste on its own, you can see when this processes out, will be 6% provocation, but when you mix it with fish or vegetables, it becomes something totally different altogether. So, unless you're looking for a filler food, don't be too concerned with what the seasoning gives on its own, because generally you're not going to be eating normal seasoning. In order to do vinegar, you're looking for vegetables. For vegetables, just side note, you can use any vegetables you want. Green soybeans give you the most. Like, you can see it took 4 to get me 1 vinegar. If you look at the maitake, you get almost nothing. So if you have green soybeans, use those. And miso is made with grain, like unmilled rice. Like so. just going to go ahead and set down all those seasonings, which will then remand us to the smokers. So whether you are drying, for instance, or pickling, the final step should always be smoking. That automatically takes everything you have and just makes it better. So we hung gem rice. This is the dried product. You can see if we put it in the smoker, we're going to get an extra 2 health and an extra 3% recovery boost. Put that in. If you dry the bulbous turnips, you can see you actually get a new skill altogether if you smoke this. You will get 38 health, 9% defense boost, but you will also get +3 to Ironclad. Moving right along, once you dry the miso rice that we made in the pickling jar, you'll get an extra 1 health and an extra 1 recovery boost. You don't get a whole lot for this, but it's still worth it to do it if you have it on hand. Moving right along, you can see the soy fish is going to give +3 extra health and +3% extra fatigue alleviation. Smoking the pickled fish, which again only costs 15 food, will give you an extra health and an extra percentage of fatigue alleviation. And the last thing that we tend to smoke is the vegetables, which you can see gives you an extra 2 health, an extra percentage of defense boost, and an extra percentage of fatigue alleviation for the smoking process. And then with my other smokers here, I'm just going to real quickly like throw in my gem rice, because I need to make gem rice today. So, with that demonstration, you can see how the food process actually works. If you're drying it, again, you are drying it because you like the properties of that material and you want to enhance them, such as the dried bulbous turnips or the dried gem rice. If you're pickling, you are changing the properties of that food. So, basically, grain on grain, grain plus miso paste is just going to enhance the properties of the grain. Whereas, and of course, the same thing applies to fish on fish. If you look at just the regular fish and the soy fish, you will notice again you are just enhancing the properties. But you're doing that a lot more than if you dry it. So you see here you get 11 and 12. Over here you only get 9 and 7. But the thing is, if you dry the fish first, you're effectively just wasting food. Whether you use raw fish or regular fish or whatever material, grain, grain, vegetables, meat, whatever, drying it and then pickling it is a huge waste of food. That's an 8-to-3 ratio to get 3 dried fish, when you could just put the raw fish straight into the pickling jar and get the exact same result. Don't dry and then pickle. It is a monumental waste of food, and I weep for how much food I have wasted to this misunderstanding. And of course, the vinegar fish. Again, this is a really... And my understanding from Bob is that this works with basically anything that you use vinegar on to pickle. Or on its own, you can see you get completely different results if you're just looking for something like filler. Like for instance, if I ate the dried bulbous turnip, which again that is a 90 food commitment, I could eat 1 vinegar to get 1% fatigue alleviation. You get 6% provocation, etc. for just eating the seasoning as it stands. And so that's kind of what you want to remember. I wonder, do I have anything that has particularly unique skills? I probably don't because I don't usually keep it. Yeah, I don't tend to keep things on hand that would really make a big difference. But like for instance, you could take the maitake, for example. It's not a great example. But if for some reason you were really fond of the stand tall, you could dry just straight maitake and then smoke that to enhance the stand tall and health boost of that particular thing. Now, the other thing that I hear a lot is a complaint about the time commitment to actually make this food. And, you know, honestly, guys, I'm not going to lie to you on this one. Yes, it is a huge time commitment to actually prepare all of this food this way. What I have found works best for me, as you can see, we're doing this on Natsukurachi Isle, which I kind of consider my home base for cooking. And you can see a pretty elaborate setup here. But you can also see that just because of these different speeds that the smokers work at, that I have quite a backup of things to just smoke. So what I have found works really well is to make a food processing station on every map, so that no matter where you happen to be working, you have the opportunity to change things over, whether you're doing meat, fish, vegetables, grain, whatever you have. I'll take you out here, and I'm not actually going to put things in because the game has been crashing when I'm interacting with the smokers, so thank you for not happening so far, but... for instance, on Haragasumi Way, this is where I go to catch up on all of the things that I have smoking. You know, I have, I think, 12 smokers here that I can use to catch up on my smoking that I have to do. On Akakure Canyon, I have taken over the Surprise Hot Spring. Which you can see here is working mostly on fish. You can see I have my food shrines here too. Am I lucky enough to get any gem rice? Probably not, but I'll pull these and see if I get lucky. I usually have to go manually for gem rice because I have such terrible luck. Yeah, no extra gem rice. Boo. So, I have a station here, and this is, I'm farming Grimquill as we speak, so this is particularly prescient to the current conversation. And on Fuyufusagi 4, I use Hime-sama's hideout to just keep food moving no matter which map I'm working on, to take a couple of minutes before the hunt to change my racks and my benches and just keep adding more food. I use food shrines and paddle scoops to get a lot of my vegetables and my fish, and like I've mentioned in the series, I don't tend to use meat. You can see I have my little station mostly for vegetables here that I'm working with. Now, as for the grain, if you like my grain recipes, I'm going to show you really fast the route that I run for the gem rice. And Bob actually noticed something very interesting about the nodes in this game. The unmilled rice or turnips will eventually turn into the superior version if you're just patient a little bit. So, farming for gem rice, this is actually a piece right here. You come up to the node. If you see these rainbow colored sparkles, that means that is a piece of gem rice. So we'll take that and move on to the next piece. You can see this piece only has green sparkles. That's unmilled rice. We're going to leave it for now. Again, unmilled rice, we're going to leave it. Back across the river, again, we're seeing green sparkles, so no one cares about that nonsense. Green sparkles, green sparkles. And one of the other interesting little quirks of the game also is that the green sparkles render from a longer range than the rainbow sparkles. So you should be able to tell at a decent distance whether it is a piece of gem rice or not. That's gem rice. Yep. And so this is the route that I run, and I might set aside an hour or two, every once in a while that I do nothing but just run through this field. I give it usually about 10 minutes on each iteration, and then I take whatever I have and just fast travel to a different map to reset the rice so that I can try again. Gem rice. Actually having unusually good luck. Maybe I'm getting good karma for recording the food process for you guys. There's one piece up the hill here, which I think is actually gem rice. Right. No, guys. And then you can drop down right here without killing yourself. And you're back to the start. So that is how you farm for gem rice. Where on the next lap, like you can see that piece across the river is still on milled rice. On the next lap, you might have better luck with getting pieces of gem rice. So that is really the summary of how the food system works and what some of my better recipes are. Remember, key points, I'll throw up some sort of like overlay. You are either drying or pickling, not both. Drying first is a monumental waste of food. To learn from my mistakes. And then whether you dry or pickle, then you finish off in the smoker to enhance the properties from the first part of the craft. And I've shown you my setup to keep... Let me go someplace quiet. I've shown you my setup to keep things moving no matter which map I happen to be working on. I have a little station all over the place where I can keep food moving through as I am working through the hunts that I'm doing. And yes, I'm not out here saying that this is not time consuming. The food system is in fact extremely time consuming. But it is worth it to just take a couple of hours and just process out good food for these endgame hunts. And that's really all there is to it. Some of my better recipes, how the food processing actually works. I'm so embarrassed, you guys. I wasted hundreds and hundreds of food because I was drying first and then pickling, and I didn't realize what I was doing wrong until last week. Learn from my mistakes, please. And some of my better recipes in order to make the best endgame food for most situations. As you can see what I normally eat the smoked miso rice and dried gem rice for the deeply volatiles, and I usually eat 2 each of the smoked soy fish and smoked pickled fish for my volatile farming to get the keystones in order to move along with the deeply volatile farm in the hopes that maybe someday I'll get the talisman that I want from Grimquill. So it goes. I hope this guide has been helpful for you all, and I'm going to get this up right away to hopefully help out with the misinformation on the internet, and hope to God that I'm right about it, because who knows, honestly. I think I'm right, but I guess we'll find out. I hope this has been helpful for you, and I thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.